The doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened without warning. No announcement. No scheduled appointment. The ancient beings simply walked in as if they owned the space, and perhaps in some ways they did. The Veltheran elders had not set foot in these halls for over 3,000 years. Counselor Hyuk sat in his designated seat, the small blue chair that marked Earth's place among the galactic powers. He watched the elders move with slow, deliberate steps across the polished floor. Their bodies were tall and thin, covered in silver robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. He had never seen one in person before. Few living beings had. High Chancellor Reith stood from his elevated platform, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of welcome. The Draven leader was known for his diplomatic skills, his ability to navigate the complex politics of 200 species. But even he seemed uncertain now. "Honored elders," Reith said, his voice carrying through the vast chamber. "Your presence brings us great silence." The word came from the eldest of the three Veltheran, Elder Vormith. His voice was soft, but it filled every corner of the room. "We have not come for pleasantries." The chamber fell quiet. 400 delegates from across the galaxy stopped their whispering. Even the translation devices seemed to pause. Vormith stepped forward, his ancient eyes scanning the assembled representatives. When his gaze passed over Hyuk, the human felt a chill run down his spine. Those eyes had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had witnessed the birth and death of stars. "We come with a warning," Vormith continued. "One we pray you will heed, though we suspect you will not." Ambassador Jiwan sat 2 rows behind Hyuk. She leaned forward slightly, her hand resting on the communication device hidden in her sleeve. She had received a message from Earth Command just before this session began. The message had been brief. 3 words. She had read them 5 times, unable to believe what they said. "The humans," Vormith said, and every eye in the chamber turned toward the small delegation from Earth. "Your council has spent the last century studying them, analyzing them. You believe you understand them." A ripple of amusement passed through some of the delegates. Humanity was young, barely 300 years into space travel. They were useful for their entertainment, their art, their curious perspective. But a threat? The very idea seemed absurd. "You are wrong," Vormith said flatly, "and your ignorance will cost you everything." Reith's translator clicked as he processed the words. "Elder Vormith, with respect, humanity has been a cooperative member of this council. They have shown no signs of aggression. Their military is small, their technology borrowed from older species. What threat could they possibly? The same threat they have always posed." Vormith turned to face the High Chancellor directly. 3,000 years ago, we made first contact with their world. They had just learned to split the atom. They were building weapons that could destroy their own planet. We watched them for 50 years before revealing ourselves. Hyuk kept his face perfectly still. This was not in any history book he had read. First contact was supposed to have happened 280 years ago, when the Veltheran scout ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. "What we saw terrified us," Vormith continued. "Not their weapons, not their violence. Every young species is violent. No, what frightened us was their organization, their planning, their absolute refusal to surrender once they committed to a goal." The elder moved closer to Hyuk's section. "We studied their wars, not the skirmishes over food or territory that most species fight. Humans wage war for ideas, for beliefs, for revenge that spans generations. They plan their conflicts across decades. They sacrifice millions for victory, and they never, ever stop until they achieve their objective or they are completely destroyed." Jiwan felt her communication device buzz again. Another message from Earth Command. She glanced at it discreetly. 4 words this time. Her blood went cold. "We chose not to make contact," Vormis said. "We left them alone. We hoped they would destroy themselves, as most species of their temperament do. But they did not. They unified their world. They reached for the stars. And when your council finally made contact a few centuries later, we said nothing. We hoped we had been wrong." The elder raised one long finger, pointing at the tactical display that showed the current positions of all major fleets in council space. "But we were not wrong. Your intelligence agencies have infiltrated human governments. You have stolen their technology. You have manipulated their markets. You have done everything you believe necessary to keep them weak and dependent." A Draven military officer stood. "That is a baseless accusation. It is documented fact," Vormith interrupted. "And they know. The humans have known for 50 years. Hugh allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Finally, someone understood. "Your reports say the human fleet is small," Vormith said. "Your analysts say they lack the industrial capacity for war. Your spies report internal political divisions that would prevent unified action." The elder's eyes swept across the chamber. "All of this is true. And all of this is irrelevant." Vormith walked to the center of the chamber, standing in the holographic display. The lights cast strange shadows across his silver robes. "The human fleet has begun to move. Your sensors have detected this. You believe they are conducting exercises, training maneuvers. You are wrong. Then what are they doing?" Reith demanded. "Positioning." Vormith's voice was heavy with regret. "And by the time you understand what that means, it will already be too late." Ji-Wan stood abruptly. Every delegate turned to look at her. She was young for an ambassador, barely 40. But her eyes held something that made several nearby species lean away from her. "Ambassador Ji-Wan," Reith said carefully, "do you have something to add to this discussion?" She looked at Hyuk. He gave the smallest nod. She tapped her communication device, and a recording began to play. It was static at first, then a voice came through. A human voice, speaking Korean. The translation devices kicked in. "All diplomatic personnel are to evacuate non-essential positions. Protocol Exodus is on standby. Await confirmation." The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted questions. Security officers moved to strategic positions. Reith was calling for order, but Hugh simply sat quietly, his hands folded in his lap. He thought about his daughter, who was serving on the UE's Incheon somewhere in deep space. He thought about his son, who worked in the orbital shipyards above Earth. He wondered if he would ever see them again. Elder Vormith watched the chaos with sad, ancient eyes. He began walking toward the exit, his fellow elders following. As he passed Hyuk's seat, he paused. "We warned another species once," Vormith said softly, speaking directly to the human. "We told them not to underestimate a particular opponent. They laughed at us, just as this council laughs now. What happened to them?" Hyuk asked quietly. "Nothing," Vormith replied. "They do not exist anymore. That is what happened." The elders left the chamber. Behind them, 400 species argued and shouted and demanded explanations. But Hugh sat in silence, counting down the hours until everything changed. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Soul's Promise, watching the stars through the main viewport. He had commanded this ship for 7 years, ferrying ambassadors and delegates between worlds. It was peaceful work. Boring, even. He had joined Earth's fleet hoping for adventure, but instead he got endless diplomatic functions and trade, negotiations. That was about to change the his communication officer turned in her seat. "Captain, we're receiving the signal." Minho nodded slowly. "Confirm authentication code." Code verified. It's authentic, sir. He took a deep breath. Begin evacuation protocol. All human personnel to assembly points. We leave in 6 hours. The officer hesitated. Sir, what about our passengers? We have delegates from 17 different species on board. They stay, Minho said. This is humans only. Within the hour, every human on the massive diplomatic station began moving. They walked calmly to the docking bays, carrying only what they could fit in a single bag. They did not run. They did not panic. They simply left. A Draven security officer tried to stop a group of human engineers. Where are you going? Your shift does not end for another 4 hours. One of the engineers, a woman named Sumi, smiled apologetically. Family emergency. We all have to go. All of you? At the same time? Sumi's smile did not reach her eyes. Yes, all of us. On Research Station Kepler 9, scientist Dahi was deleting files. 30 years of work vanished with each keystroke. Her colleagues watched in confusion. Dahi, what are you doing? Asked her lab partner, a Threen researcher named Killick. That's our entire project database. I'm sorry, Dahi said quietly. She had worked with Killick for 15 years. They had published 47 papers together. They had won awards. They were friends. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? Stop deleting those files. Dahi's fingers moved faster. Equations disappeared. Research notes vanished. Experimental data erased. You weren't supposed to find this yet. We thought we had more time. Find what? Dahi, you're not making sense. The scientist finished her deletion sequence and stood up. She looked at Killick with genuine sadness. In 20 years, maybe 30, you would have discovered what we found. But you would have used it wrong. You would have made weapons we can't defend against. We can't let that happen. What are you talking about? But Dahi was already walking away, heading for the evacuation shuttle. Behind her, Killick tried to recover the deleted files. Every recovery attempt failed. Dahi had been thoroughly across the galaxy. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of stations, colonies, and trading posts. Humans packed their belongings and left. They offered no explanations. They ignored all questions. They just disappeared. Merchant Bora was canceling contracts. Her company, the largest human trading operation in Council space, did business with 73 different species. She had ships moving goods along every major trade route. Her company employed over 10,000 people. Now she was shutting it all down. Every contract? Her business partner asked. He was a Ven trader who had worked with her for 20 years. Bora, some of these contracts have penalties. We'll lose billions. Money doesn't matter now, Bora said. She was transferring assets, pulling currency from council banks, converting everything to portable wealth. What's happening? Is this about the Elder's warning? Bora looked at him. They had been through a lot together. He had been at her wedding. She had been there when his offspring were born. I can't tell you. I wish I could. But I can't. Are we still friends? Yes, she said honestly. But that won't matter soon. The council finally noticed what was happening when the first colony went dark. New Sol, a human settlement with 2 million people, simply stopped responding. Ships sent to investigate found the colony intact but empty. Buildings powered down. Systems on standby. Not a single human remained. Then another colony went silent. Then another. Councillor Hyuk's office was empty. His staff had cleared out overnight. The only thing left was a note on his desk. It said, "Thank you for the opportunity to serve. I'm sorry for what comes next." Emergency sessions were called. The council demanded answers. But there were no humans left to answer them. Admiral Taiwan's flagship, the UE Soul Dragon, was somewhere in deep space. The massive dreadnought had been on a routine patrol near the outer rim. Now it was gone. Long-range sensors could not find it. It had simply vanished along with the entire human fleet dotting G1's abandoned quarters at the Council Station. Investigators found burned documents and wiped computers. But they also found a recording. It was set to broadcast on a delay, triggered when the last human left the station. The recording showed G1 sitting calmly in her chair. She looked tired. "By the time you see this, we will be gone," she said. "You will have many questions. I can answer some of them. First, yes, we knew about the infiltration. We have known for 50 years. Every spy you turned was actually working for us. Every leak you found was information we wanted you to have." She paused, taking a sip of water. "Second, we are not running away. We are not afraid. We are leaving because our presence here puts you in danger. Not from us, from what we are about to become." The recording flickered slightly. "Third, you cannot follow us. You do not have the technology. You do not have the resources. And even if you did, you would not want to see what we are doing." G1 leaned forward, her eyes staring directly into the camera. "The elders were right to warn you. They understand something about humanity that you do not. We do not fight fair. We do not follow your rules. When we go to war, we do not stop until we win or we are destroyed. There is no middle ground." She stood up, preparing to leave. "We did not want this. We hoped for peace. We tried to be good members of your council. But you could not leave us alone. You had to spy on us. You had to steal from us. You had to think you were smarter than us." The recording showed her walking to the door. She stopped and looked back one last time. "Protocol Exodus is in effect. We are going dark. When we return, everything will be different. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry." The screen went black dot by the end of the week. Every human in council space was gone. Over 50 million people had evacuated. They left behind homes, businesses, research stations, diplomatic posts. They left behind friends and colleagues and partners. They left behind a galaxy that was just beginning to realize it had made a terrible mistake. High Chancellor Reith sat in his private office, reviewing the reports. Every human world was empty. Every human ship had disappeared. The only traces left behind were automated systems maintaining basic functions. His chief of intelligence stood before him. "We have located their fleet." "Where?" "Everywhere," the officer said. "And nowhere. Our best analysts think they have split up and are moving through dead space, regions with no sensor coverage. We cannot track them." Reith closed his eyes. The elders had warned them. They had said it would be too late. He had not listened. A junior officer burst into the room. "Chancellor, we have a problem." "A big problem. What now?" "Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures. Not from human space. From behind us. They're coming from the Dark Zone, the region behind Council territory that we've never explored." Reith felt his blood go cold. "That's impossible. There's nothing in the Dark Zone. We've sent probes. It's empty." The junior officer's hands shook as he handed over the datapad. "Not anymore, sir. There are thousands of signatures. Maybe tens of thousands. They're all moving information." The Chancellor looked at the data. Then he understood what the elders had tried to tell them. The human fleet had not retreated into their own space. They had gone around, and now they were coming back. The Council emergency session had been going for 6 hours. 400 delegates argued, shouted, and demanded action. But no one had any real answers. High Chancellor Reith looked exhausted. He had not slept in 3 days. The disappearance of humanity had thrown the entire galaxy into chaos. Trade routes were disrupted. Research projects abandoned. Diplomatic relationships strained. And now there were reports of a massive fleet approaching from the Dark Zone. "We need information," Reith said, his voice cutting through the noise. "We need to understand what humanity is planning." Fleet Commander Sivith stood from his seat. The Draven military leader was known for his tactical brilliance. He had fought in 17 campaigns across the galaxy. "We have captured a human operative. She was found on a remote trading station, attempting to access our communication networks." "Bring her in," Reith ordered. They brought Kyungmi into the chamber in restraints. She walked calmly, her expression neutral. She was young, perhaps 30, with dark eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. She showed no fear. "State your name and rank," Sivith demanded. "Intelligence Officer Kyungmi, Earth Defense Intelligence Agency," she said clearly. "Serial number 4782KM9. You were caught infiltrating our systems." "Why?" Kyungmi smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I was not infiltrating anything. I was sending a message home, letting them know you had figured out we were coming." The chamber fell silent. "You wanted to be caught?" Reith asked. "Someone needed to explain things to you." "Might as well be me." Sivith stepped closer to her. "Explain what?" "Why your species has abandoned Council space. Why you are bringing a fleet against us." "We did not abandon anything," Kyungmi said. "We evacuated civilians. We removed everyone who could not fight. What you see coming from the Dark Zone is not an invasion fleet. It is everyone who stayed behind." One of the delegates, a Threen ambassador, spoke up. "You expect us to believe that millions of humans are warriors? That you evacuated civilians and left only soldiers?" Kyungmi laughed. It was a bitter sound. "No, you misunderstand. We evacuated people who we thought might hesitate. People who might feel sorry for you. People who might want to show mercy." Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened again. Elder Vormith entered, moving slowly on his ancient legs. He had not been invited, but no one dared to stop him. "You should listen to her," Vormith said. "She is trying to help you understand." Reith gestured to a seat, but the elder remained standing. "Elder Vormith, you warned us about humanity, but you never explained why they are so dangerous. They are one species among hundreds. They have no special weapons. Their technology is borrowed from others. What makes them different?" Vormith was quiet for a long moment. "Let me tell you a story," he finally said. 3,000 years ago, when we first observed Earth, we studied their military history. We watched recordings of their wars. We analyzed their strategic thinking." The elder moved to the center of the chamber, where the holographic display showed the approaching human fleet. "We found something that no other species has. Do you know what it is?" No one answered. "Humans do not fight for survival alone," Vormith continued. "Every species fights when threatened. That is natural. But humans fight for other reasons. They fight for beliefs, for honor, for revenge, for ideas that have no physical form." He pulled up historical data, images from Earth's past. "They fought a war that killed over 60 million of their own kind because they disagreed about how their governments should work. They built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet 100 times over. And they kept those weapons aimed at each other for 50 years. Because they believed different economic theories." The images shifted, showing more recent conflicts. "They crushed a rebellion on Mars in 72 hours, not because the rebels were dangerous, but because they refused to acknowledge defeat. They burned their own colony to ash rather than let it exist in opposition to their government." Kyungmi watched the elder with interest. "You understand us better than most," she said. "I fear you," Vormith replied honestly. "Any rational being would." Sivith was growing impatient. "This is all history. Ancient wars and old conflicts. What does it matter now? Kyungmi turned to face him. It matters because we never stopped. While you were building your council and making your trade agreements and thinking you were so advanced, we were doing what we always do. We were preparing for war. Against whom? Reith demanded. We have been at peace with Earth for centuries. Peace? Kyungmi's voice was sharp. You call it peace when you infiltrate our governments? When you steal our technology? When you manipulate our economy to keep us dependent on council trade? She leaned forward despite her restraints. We know everything. Every spy. Every agent. Every operation. We have known for 50 years. The chamber erupted in denials and accusations. Delegates shouted at each other. Security forces moved to defensive positions, but Elder Vormith simply nodded sadly. She tells the truth. I have seen the evidence. Your intelligence agencies have been working against humanity since the moment you made contact. That is standard procedure, one intelligence director protested. We monitor all new species. We ensure they do not become threats. And in doing so, Kyungmi said quietly, you made us one. Reith was trying to maintain order. Even if this is true, even if we have been monitoring humanity, that does not justify bringing a fleet against us. That is an act of war. We are not bringing a fleet against you, Kyungmi corrected. We already brought it. It has been in position for 3 weeks. You only just noticed because we wanted you to notice. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various delegates. Do you want to know what we have been doing for the last century? While you were spying on us and thinking you were so clever? We were building every human colony, every research station, every trading post. All of it was part of the plan. The holographic display changed. It showed human colonies, but the images were different now. Underground facilities, hidden shipyards, massive industrial complexes concealed beneath civilian structures. We built our fleet in secret, Kyungmi continued. We use your own spies to hide our activities. Every time you thought you had discovered one of our military projects, we made sure you found exactly what we wanted you to find. Small ships, limited weapons, nothing to worry about. Vormith added, they showed you what you expected to see. A young species with a small military. No threat at all. The real fleet was hidden in the dark zone, Kyungmi said. We have been moving ships there for 30 years. Building stations. Stockpiling supplies. Training crews. And you never noticed because you were too busy congratulating yourselves on how well you had infiltrated our society. A horrible realization was spreading through the chamber. They had not been observing humanity. Humanity had been controlling what they observed. Why tell us this now? Reith asked. If you wanted to attack, why give us warning? Kyungmi's expression became serious. Because we do not want to fight you. We want you to understand that you cannot fight us. We want surrender, not war. Surrender? Sivith laughed harshly. We have 200 species in this council. Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Your fleet, even if everything you say is true, is perhaps 10,000 ships. We outnumber you 20 to 1. Numbers do not matter, Kyungmi said. You have never fought a unified war. Your council makes decisions by committee. Your fleets answer to different governments. You have never faced an enemy that plans decades ahead. That sacrifices everything for victory. That will not stop until you surrender or they are destroyed. She paused, letting her words sink in. And we will not be destroyed. Elder Vormith spoke again. I warned you that it would be too late. I did not mean you would die. I meant you would have no choice. By the time you understood what humanity was doing, they would already have won. Reith looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was positioned perfectly. They had blockaded every major council world simultaneously. That level of coordination was terrifying. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. Kyungmi smiled. "Admiral Taiwan will explain everything. He should be broadcasting in about 10 minutes. I suggest you listen carefully." As if on cue, every display in the chamber lit up. A human face appeared. He was older, perhaps 60, with gray hair and cold eyes. He wore the uniform of Earth's Fleet Command. "I am Admiral Taiwan," the face said, "Supreme Commander of the Terra Armada. And we need to talk." Admiral Taiwan's face filled every screen in council space. He appeared on government displays, civilian networks, military channels. There was no escaping his broadcast. "For 2 centuries, he began, his voice calm and measured, "humanity has been part of your Galactic Council. We joined in good faith. We shared our culture, our art, our scientific discoveries. We thought we were building friendships." He paused, his cold eyes seeming to look directly at each viewer. "We were wrong." In the council chamber, delegates watched in stunned silence. Kyungmi stood quietly in her restraints, a slight smile on her face. 50 years ago, Taiwan continued, our intelligence agencies discovered something disturbing. Council species have been infiltrating our government since the moment we made first contact. You placed spies in our military. You corrupted our politicians. You stole our technology and claimed it as your own. The screen split, showing documentation, files, communications, evidence of decades of espionage. The Council's intelligence operations lay bare for all to see. We found over 4,000 foreign agents working within Earth's government, Taiwan said. We identified 37 Council-backed coups that you attempted to stage. We traced 17 technology thefts directly to Council scientific institutions. High Chancellor Reith felt his blood turn to ice. They had been so careful, so secretive. How had humanity found all of this? You are wondering how we knew, Taiwan said, as if reading their minds. The answer is simple. We let you think you were winning. Every agent you turned was already working for us. Every piece of technology you stole was something we wanted you to have. Every secret you discovered was a secret we wanted you to find. The screen showed more evidence. Communications between Council intelligence agencies. Plans for destabilizing human governments. Strategies for keeping humanity dependent on Council technology. For 50 years, we fed you false information, Taiwan continued. We made you believe our fleet was small, our technology primitive, our society divided. You believed all of this because you wanted to believe it. You wanted to think you were superior. Elder Vormuth watched the broadcast with sad recognition. This was exactly what he had feared. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or their weapons. It was their patience, their ability to plan across generations. During those 50 years, Taiwan said, we prepared. Every human colony built underground shipyards. Every research station hid military laboratories. Every trade vessel carried intelligence equipment. We turned your own surveillance against you. The tactical display in the Council chamber updated. It showed the true size of the human fleet. Not 10,000 ships. Over 40,000. And they were all in position, surrounding every major Council world. Fleet Commander Sivith stared at the display in disbelief. That's impossible. Where did they get the resources? The materials? We would have noticed. But Kyungmi just shook her head. You saw what you expected to see. When our merchant ships carried raw materials, you thought they were trading goods. When we built construction projects, you thought they were civilian infrastructure. You never imagined we were building a war machine right under your noses. On the screen, Taiwan continued his broadcast. We did not want this. We hoped for real peace. We tried to work within your system, but you could not leave us alone. You had to control us, to manipulate us, to keep us weak." His expression hardened. "You forgot what the elders tried to tell you. Humanity does not accept weakness. We do not surrender. We do not compromise when our survival is threatened. We fight until we win or we are destroyed." The image shifted again, showing Captain Minho and his strike teams. They were moving through Council Intelligence headquarters, securing data centers and communication hubs. The operations were happening simultaneously on dozens of worlds. "As I speak," Taiwan said, "our special forces are capturing every major intelligence facility in Council space. We are seizing your communication networks. We are taking control of your surveillance systems. Everything you built to spy on us is now ours." Reith tried to contact his military commanders. The communication channels were blocked. He tried to access security systems. Access denied. Humanity had already infiltrated every critical system. "You have 24 hours, Taiwan announced. "In that time, you will surrender every intelligence operative currently working against Earth. You will return every piece of stolen technology. You will reveal every infiltration operation you have conducted against humanity." The Admiral's face grew stern. "If you comply, we will establish a new treaty. One where humanity has equal voice in Council decisions. One where we are treated as partners, not subjects to be controlled." He leaned forward. "If you do not comply, we will demonstrate why the elders warned you to never underestimate us. We will show you what happens when humanity goes to war." The screen changed one final time. It showed an uninhabited system at the edge of Council space. A human fleet surrounded a rocky planet. "This planet is similar to your capital worlds," Taiwan said. "Same size, same composition. Watch carefully. The human ships opened fire. But these were not normal weapons. The energy beam struck the planet's surface, and the entire world began to shake. The crust cracked. The mantle exposed. Within minutes, the planet was breaking apart. "We can do this to every Council world," Taiwan said quietly. "We have the weapons. We have the ships. We have the will. But we would prefer not to. We would prefer peace." He paused, letting the image of the destroyed planet linger on every screen. 24 hours. Choose wisely. The broadcast ended. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates screamed accusations at each other. Military commanders tried to organize resistance. Intelligence directors deleted files and destroyed evidence. But Sivith just sat down slowly, staring at the tactical display. He had commanded fleets for 40 years. He had studied warfare at the finest military academies in the galaxy. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that the Council could not win this fight. The human fleet was perfectly positioned. Every ship in exactly the right location. Every weapon pointed at a critical target. This was not luck. This was planning that had taken decades. "How long?" he asked Kyungmi. "How long have you been preparing this operation?" She thought for a moment. The initial planning began about 70 years ago. Full operational development started 50 years ago when we confirmed you were spying on us. Final positioning took the last 5 years. 70 years, Sivith repeated. "You planned this before I was born." "We plan everything," Kyungmi said. "That is what makes us dangerous. We do not react. We prepare. We think generations ahead. While you were celebrating successful intelligence operations against us, we were building the tools to end you." Reith finally found his voice. "What assurance do we have that you will honor a treaty? If we surrender everything, what stops you from destroying us anyway?" "Nothing," Kyungmi answered honestly. "You will have to trust us, just as we trusted you when we joined your council. We see how well that worked out. Elder Vormith approached the Chancellor. You have no choice. Surrender or face destruction. Those are your only options now. There must be another way, Wreath protested. We can negotiate. Find a compromise. Humanity does not compromise when they hold all the power, Vormith said. They offered you terms. Accept them or suffer the consequences. It is already too late for anything else. Ambassador Jiwan's face appeared on a smaller screen. She looked tired but determined. Chancellor Wreath, I understand this is difficult. But please understand, we are offering you a chance to survive. Many humans wanted to simply destroy the Council and be done with it. Admiral Taiwan convinced them to try diplomacy one more time. She gestured to something off-screen. We have all the evidence. Every crime. Every infiltration. Every theft. We could release it to your populations. Let them know how their governments betrayed humanity. It would tear your societies apart. Instead, Jiwan continued, we are offering a clean reset. Surrender your intelligence operations. Accept our oversight. Treat us as equals. And we can build something better. Wreath looked around the chamber. The most powerful species in the galaxy, all looking to him for guidance. And he had none to give. The elders had been right. It was already too late. Humanity had won before the Council even knew there was a fight. How long do I have to decide? He asked quietly. Taiwan's voice came back over the speakers. 23 hours and 46 minutes. I suggest you start calling your intelligence agencies. You have a lot of people to recall. The Council surrendered in 11 hours. It was not the full 24 hours that Admiral Taiwan had given them. High Chancellor Wreath had called an emergency vote. 200 species, some protesting loudly, others in shocked silence, had agreed to humanity's terms. They had no real choice. Councillor Hyuk returned to the council chambers exactly 12 hours after the surrender. He walked through the same doors he had walked through for 7 years. But everything was different now. The delegates who had once ignored him now watched him carefully. Some with fear, some with anger, some with grudging respect. His seat was the same. The small blue chair that marked Earth's place among the galactic powers. But the position of that chair had changed. It had been moved to the center of the chamber, at the same level as the High Chancellor's platform. Hyuk sat down and looked around the room. I did not want this, he said quietly. I spent 7 years trying to build real friendships with you, trying to make this council work for everyone. He pulled out a datapad and placed it on his desk. This contains evidence of 4,000 intelligence operations against Earth, operations that violated every treaty we signed. Every promise you made. The chamber was silent. We could have destroyed you, Hugh continued. Many humans wanted to. They wanted revenge for the betrayal, for the spying, for treating us like children who needed to be controlled. He stood up, his voice growing stronger. But we are better than that. We do not want an empire built on fear. We want a real council. One where every species has an equal voice. Where treaties are honored. Where trust actually means something. Ambassador Jiwan entered the chamber, followed by a team of human negotiators. She had changed from her military uniform into diplomatic robes. But there was steel in her eyes that had not been there before. The new treaties are ready, she announced. Every council species will sign them today. The terms are not negotiable. Fleet Commander Sivith spoke up. And if we refuse? Jiwan looked at him calmly. Then you withdraw from the council. And you deal with humanity as a foreign power. Without the protection of council law. Without the benefit of council trade. Without any assurance that we will not treat you the way you treated us. Sivith nodded slowly. He understood the message. Sign the treaty or be isolated. Those were the only options. The first term was simple. Every intelligence operative working against Earth would be recalled immediately. Every spy would be revealed. Every infiltration would end. The second term was harder. The Council would establish the Terran Oversight Committee. This committee would review all major Council decisions. Nothing significant would happen without human approval. The third term was hardest of all. Council species would share their most advanced technology with humanity. No more secrets. No more stolen research. Equal access to all scientific discoveries. A Threen ambassador stood up angrily. This is occupation, not partnership. No, Hyuk corrected. Occupation is what you did to us. You infiltrated our government. You manipulated our economy. You tried to control every aspect of our society. That was occupation. He gestured to the treaty. This is supervision. We are making sure you cannot do to anyone else what you did to us. Elder Vormeth entered the chamber quietly. He had been watching from a private gallery, observing how humanity would handle their victory. Now he moved to stand beside Hyuk. The young human speaks truth, Vormeth said. I have seen countless species rise to power in my lifetime. Most use that power to dominate others, to build empires, to repeat the same mistakes that have plagued this galaxy for millennia. He looked at Jiwon. But I see something different in humanity. You have the power to destroy, the weapons to conquer, the will to wage endless war. But you choose restraint. You offer partnership instead of subjugation. Jiwon bowed slightly to the ancient elder. We learn from our own history. We know what happens when the powerful oppress the weak. It always ends in rebellion, in war, in destruction. We do not want to repeat those mistakes. She turned to address the entire chamber. The Oversight Committee is not forever. It will exist for 1 generation, 25 Earth years. During that time, we will rebuild trust. We will prove that cooperation works better than manipulation. And after 25 years? Reef asked. After that, we review, Hugh said. If the Council has honored its treaties, if trust has been rebuilt, then the oversight ends. We become true partners. And if trust is not rebuilt? Someone asked. Hugh's expression hardened. Then the oversight continues. For another generation. And another. For however long it takes. Over the next week, every Council species signed the new treaties. Some signed willingly, seeing the wisdom in humanity's approach. Others signed reluctantly, still bitter about their loss of power. A few smaller species refused and withdrew from the Council, entirely. Kyungmi was promoted to Director of Interspecies Intelligence. Her first act was to establish new intelligence-sharing protocols. Every Council species would report their intelligence operations openly. No more secret spying. No more covert manipulation. Trust is earned over centuries, she told the assembled intelligence directors. You violated that trust. Now you have to rebuild it. And that starts with transparency. Captain Minho and his Special Forces teams remained stationed on key Council worlds. Not as occupiers, but as peacekeepers. Their presence was a constant reminder of what could happen if the treaties were violated. Admiral Taiwan's fleet maintained permanent positions throughout Council space. The massive ships orbited major worlds, their weapons powered down but ready. Everyone knew they were there. Everyone understood what they represented. Some species adapted quickly to the new order. They saw the benefits of real cooperation, of honest partnership. Trade flourished when merchants did not have to worry about political manipulation. Scientific research advanced when information was freely shared. Other species resented the changes. They grumbled about human oversight. They complained about lost autonomy. But they did not rebel. The memory of that planet being torn apart was still fresh. No one wanted to test humanity's resolve. Merchant Bora returned to her business, but with new rules. Human trading companies would only deal with partners who followed the new treaties. No corruption, no manipulation, fair prices and honest dealing. "It is strange," she told her old then business partner. "We make less profit now. Everything is more transparent. But the business is more stable, more sustainable." He nodded. "Your species thinks long-term. You sacrifice immediate gain for future security. Most species cannot do that." "We learned the hard way," Bora replied. "Our history is filled with short-term thinking that led to disaster. We do not want to repeat those mistakes." Scientist Dahi established new research protocols. Humans would share their scientific discoveries, but only with partners who contributed equally. No more one-sided technology transfers. No more stolen research. The data she had deleted from her lab was recovered and shared properly this time. But the most sensitive research remained restricted. "Some things are too dangerous to share widely," she explained. "Not because we want to control you, but because some knowledge requires wisdom to use properly." 1 year after the surrender, Hugh sat in his office reviewing progress reports. The Terran Oversight Committee had reviewed over 3,000 council decisions. They had approved most of them. Only 17 had been vetoed, usually because they involved secret intelligence operations. Jiwan entered his office. "The Elder wants to meet with you." They found Vormith in the observation gallery, looking out at the stars. The ancient being turned when they approached. "Your species has done well," Vormith said. "Better than I expected, honestly. I feared you would become tyrants." "We still might," Hyuk admitted. "Power corrupts. We know that. It is part of why we set a time limit on the oversight. We do not want to become what we fought against." Vormith nodded approvingly. "Wisdom. True wisdom is knowing your own weakness." He paused. "May I ask you something?" "Of course. What happens if the Council violates the treaty? If we return to our old ways after your oversight ends?" Hyuk was quiet for a long moment. "Then we will do what we always do. We will plan. We will prepare. And we will ensure it never happens again." "By force?" "If necessary," Jiwan said. "We hope it will not be necessary. We genuinely want peace. We want real cooperation. But we will never again allow ourselves to be manipulated. We will never again be anyone's subordinate." Vormith smiled sadly. "That is what makes your species so terrifying. Your absolute refusal to accept defeat. Your determination to control your own destiny at any cost." "We learned those lessons in blood," Hyuk said. "Over thousands of years of war. Millions dead. Civilizations destroyed. We learned that the only way to ensure peace is to be strong enough that no one dares attack you, and wise enough not to abuse that strength." Jiwan added. The Elder looked out at the stars again. "The galaxy will never be the same. You have changed everything. Some species will thrive under your guidance. Others will resent you forever." "We know," Hyuk said. "But this is better than the alternative." Years passed. The Terran Oversight Committee became a normal part of Council operations. Young species joining the Council accepted it as the way things had always been. Older species gradually adjusted to the new reality.